This is an interesting matchup we have between Ferris State and SVSU. This is a matchup that last year, if you really watched this Ferris State team, besides the loss to Pittsburgh State, Saginaw Valley State gave them their hardest game of the year. And Saginaw Valley State has given Ferris some issues in the last couple of years. They've been pretty close. It's been pretty competitive games. Now, obviously, Ferris State currently is undefeated right now. They're looking really good, like they're going to win the conference. SVSU was looking really, really good, and they were looking really confident. They were getting things going. They were undefeated in conference play until last week when they got upset by Davenport, which I don't think a lot of people fully expect to happen. I thought that they would win this game, and I thought it was going to be a matchup between two undefeated teams in the GLIAC going up against each other this week. And obviously, that is not the case. I think if you're SVSU, you're probably pretty upset and frustrated by last week. And I do think that's obviously going to play a big factor in this game because this is a huge matchup for both of these teams. This is a absolutely huge matchup specifically for SVSU because obviously to get into the playoffs, you need to win your conference. If you're SVSU, Ferris, you're basically already in the playoffs at this point. This is interesting not only because of the past history both of these teams have had, but it's also interesting because this is at SVSU. And I've talked a lot about the difficulty of going on the road and trying to be a team, especially in the GLIAC, especially some of the better teams in the GLIAC. I've talked about Ferris having to go on the road, GVSU having to go on the road. I've talked about all of this, and I've talked about just the general difficulty of winning games on the road, especially against a team that has played you closer than a lot of other opponents have played you. And this is a Ferris State team that obviously has been pretty much dominant throughout this year. I've talked about this throughout the year as well. Every single preview, every single recap, I've talked about how dominant they've been offensively, defensively, how they're going to cause every team issue. And I do think going into this one, and I do want to make my prediction early on, I do think Ferris State wins this game. With that being said, though, going to SVSU, especially after a loss to Davenport, I think it's going to make it really interesting because obviously if you're SVSU, you have two ways of approaching this thing. You have the way of being down on yourself, realizing last week didn't go your way, you kind of need a reset, all that kind of stuff. You kind of get down on yourself, you don't really respond. Or there's the other way of reacting, which I think Coach Ryan Brady and this team will react, is that you see an opportunity here to still possibly win your conference. And you can do that with a win. Now, is that a big ask to have happen? Yes, it is. But guess what? If you get this win, you still have one loss in conference. Ferris State would have one loss in conference. GVSU would have two losses in conference. Things get a little interesting at that point. Now, I don't think Ferris State loses again. But at the same time, this game means everything to these two teams. It's about winning this game. And I think there's a few different factors in this game that I'm going to kind of keep an eye on for. And number one is the passing attack for Ferris State versus the secondary of SVSU. Last week, Davenport was able to attack this secondary for SVSU. Can Ferris State do that, or do they need to do that? There are several times where SVSU could have gotten a stop, basically thrown the ball up, and the wide receiver went up and made a play. There's other times where SVSU struggled offensively. And this is a Ferris State team that is really good defensively. I've talked a lot about that as well. This is a Ferris State defense that has given up basically less than 15 points a game. This is also a Ferris State team that had a close game against GVSU, that had a somewhat close game against Northern until they absolutely blew them out in the second half. I'm not saying this Ferris State team isn't good whatsoever. They're great. Like, they're number one in the country. I think they're going to be the favorite to win the national championship. But it's about the type of mindset and the way both of these teams approaches this game that I'm going to truly find really interesting, because I feel like this is a trap game right here for Ferris. And the only reason why I'm saying this specifically is because when they went up against GVSU, that's a rivalry game, right? Like, you're going to be fully prepared for GVSU because you don't like each other. And I'm not saying they won't be in this one, because I absolutely believe Tony Anise, I believe that this coaching staff will have these guys ready. I also believe that you're going to have an upset SVSU team, and a team that realized that they've been close in the past to upsetting this Ferris State team, and that this is a necessary win to have happen for them for this season. They've had that in the past. They had a necessary win against GVSU. Guess what? Low scoring game, won 2019. Am I predicting that to happen? No, I am not. I think Ferris State will probably win by like 10, 14 points. I do think Ferris will be controlling the game for the most part. I think SVSU will come ready to play and will throw some punches in this game. I think they will tightly contest in this game. Do I believe it will be something like it will be almost like they could lose at any moment? No, but like it'll be like close enough where it's a little uncomfortable, even though that they kind of control the whole game. But if SVSU comes out swinging and they get out to an early lead, if you get the crowd going, that can truly make an impact, because as long as you're in the game, the longer SVSU is in this game, the more pressure you're going to put on Ferris State. And that's the biggest thing, is that pressure is important. Now, we've seen Ferris State react to that pressure positively every single time. They did the same exact thing against GVSU. Ferris State responded every single time. This is a Ferris State team that I believe will go into SVSU and get the win. But this is also an SVSU team that has a ton of talent. I think Mason McKenzie is going to be great in this game. I think offensively, SVSU is going to be able to throw the ball a little bit, just because I think they have the weapons to do so. But at the same time, I think overall, Ferris has a little bit too much offensively and defensively. I think if you look at just the overall kind of talent, the overall makeup of both of these teams, I think Ferris just has too much. I think they're going to be too physical. I think that offensive line is going to be really, really good. I think the defense is going to make some plays, and I think it's just going to be one of those games that it's going to end up being a close one at the end of the day, but it might just end up like it was last year. It was like a 3-point game, 3-point, 7-point kind of game, maybe 10-point kind of game, where SVSU has chances, but Ferris just gets it done at the end of the night, because I think Ferris, again, like I've said multiple times, is the best team in the country. And I think this SVSU team is really, really good. They've already beat a team like GVSU. It's not impossible to win this game for SVSU. I definitely wouldn't be shocked if SVSU is really competitive. I wouldn't be shocked if they win this game, but I also wouldn't be shocked if Ferris State just comes in and dominates and basically makes a statement that, like, hey, we're still the best team in the GLIAC. We're still the best team in the country. So honestly, nothing in this game would completely surprise me. I think you have two great coaching staffs. I think you have two teams that have a ton of talent. I just feel like Ferris State has too much in this one offensively and defensively. I think Ferris State's going to maybe cause some issues for this SVSU offense, and I think the wide receivers, especially Tariq Brett, will be ones to watch out for against SVSU. But if it's a close game, watch out, because this SVSU team has won close games against really good opponents, and they can do that here. But I think, like I said earlier, Ferris State just has a little bit too much at the end of the day. But let me know in the comments, do you agree, disagree, all that kind of stuff. If you like this video, I'll obviously be doing a recap of this game, talk about what happened, who won, why they won, all that kind of stuff. But make sure you leave a like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. Really appreciate everyone's support. If you like all this, there'll absolutely be more Ferris State SVSU content in the future. There'll be other recaps, other previews up as well. I try to cover 6 games or 7 games a week typically. So please continue to support the podcast and appreciate everyone. And good luck to SVSU and Ferris State in this game.